Let's think about creating jobs and making sure that everybody has access to the jobs. You know the whole stimulus is about creating jobs, and there are many ways to create jobs, and we're going to create jobs in many ways, but we cannot recover to where we were. We cannot just get the people who happen to have good jobs again, because this growing gap between the haves and the have-nots was what was really killing us as a nation. We need to recover in a way that everybody is working. I'll give you just one quick example. In the recovery package, there's a lot of money there, about $6 billion for weatherization. And it's really focused on weatherization in low-income communities. There's also a lot of money in there for retrofitting public buildings, schools, and retrofitting lots of places that we go all the time. Now, let's just take the weatherization jobs. Those jobs will go to people probably who have little education, probably go to a lot of young people, it'll probably go to a lot of people who are not ready for jobs that require more training. We could do it two different ways. We could let people get a 2-week, 3-week, a month job at a very low salary. They have it for a minute, and then they don't have it, and they're lost again. That's one way to do it. But there's another way to do it. Could say, we have all this money for weatherization. How do we identify young people and people who need to get into the job market and help them get training, get connected to labor and apprenticeship programs, get connected to projects that have a longer life where they can move on from one job to another? How do we stay in touch with them and help them take the excitement of having this job to a community college where they can take those skills and deepen those skills? There are a couple of ways to do it. One way is short-term with no future. Another can be long-term with a future, with a heavy investment going forward. So don't just say, this created so many thousands of jobs. Ask what kind of jobs and who got them. The next thing that we have to think about is the kind of projects that build community. That we have all this money coming in transportation. Most of the transportation money goes to roads and highways because that's the formula that we've used in the past. And so when you heard people talk about shovel-ready projects in transportation, most of the shovel-ready projects are going to be highways because that was what we were doing before. And so if you had a public transit idea in your community, why would it have been shovel-ready when the chances of getting funding for it would have been slim? We need to ask, what do we need for the future? Not only do we need to build an equitable country, we need to build a green country. And one of the things that is both equitable and green is public transportation. Public transportation. Public transportation allows people who do not have cars, and at the level of some 25% of African Americans and a slightly higher percentage of Latinos do not have cars in this country. So public transportation allows us to be able to connect people to opportunity who wouldn't otherwise get connected. People using public transportation saves the planet. More people get people out of cars. We can get what it is that we need in terms of reducing the impact on global warming. An investment in public transportation produces 19% more jobs than investing in roads. And so we get more jobs at the same time. And for those of us concerned about health and well-being, it is well documented that people who use public transportation walk much more than people who are dependent on their cars. So it's a quadruple bottom line. So we need to make sure that we're focused on the projects as well. Now, how will this happen? It will happen because of your advocacy. It will happen because you make sure your elected officials know that these kinds of strategies are important to you. But we need to have a different kind of oversight. President Obama has been wonderful in the way that he has focused on transparency. And recovery.gov promises to be one of the most important resources for the American people to be able to look over the shoulder of government than we have ever seen. But on recovery.gov, what you will see is where the investments were made, how much money was spent. What you will not see is what kind of investments were made. We need to be transparent, we need to be accountable, but we also need to be fair, and we need to be green. The fairness and the greenness will come because you require it in your local community. So I think that every local community ought to be thinking about having a fairness and accountability commission to be able to make sure that you are looking over the shoulder to see who benefits. That's the question of equity and fairness. Who benefits? And look for an answer that says everybody. So that's another way that you can be involved. Make sure that your community is not just counting, but examining to see exactly what's going on. Again, the good news is that there's a model for whatever it is you want to do. In California, we have the California Green Stimulus Coalition, and the California Green Stimulus Coalition is doing precisely what I'm talking about, being an advocate for getting the right things in place and then being sure to come back and ask, how did we do? The Transportation Equity Network 10 really is making sure that the kind of projects, the public transportation projects, the transit-oriented development projects are the ones that actually get put in place. And we have models of cooperation and partnership that really have to be the watchword going forward, because once you move beyond being satisfied to work on something, just work on it, and move to an aspiration to make a difference, to actually achieve something, it's clear that you cannot do it alone. You can work on something by yourself, but you can't solve a big problem working by yourself. You have to work with everybody else. Partnerships become absolutely important. That if you are honest about what has to be achieved, it will involve housing, and transportation, and education, and economic development, and health, and young people, and old people, and people from every walk of life. And so those kind of partnerships are starting to develop around the nation, and we will need foundations to step up in a huge way, because foundations are in a perfect position to be able to knit things together, to be able to invest in the planning, to be able to see down the road what it is that we need to build in terms of capacity, and to do all of that, allowing people to step up. Your elected officials are going to be absolutely key. Their power to influence policy is going to be absolutely essential. At PolicyLink, our tagline is lifting up what works. And lifting up what works is one of the easiest things to do, because our problem as a nation is not that we haven't solved every problem. We believe that local leaders are national leaders. They're solving the nation's problem. The issue is that we haven't made a commitment to sharing what we're doing, to shining a bright light on what we're doing, and lifting it up so that somebody can take it, steal it, copy it, adapt it, adopt it, do whatever it is they want to do to make sure that our wisdom doesn't just stay there on the ground, but it gets lifted up as a beacon to say, we can build a fully inclusive society. We can achieve equity. We can participate and prosper together, because by participating and prosper together, we set a model for the world. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was so generous.